Yeah, obviously today is a really exciting day around the country. I feel like you say the same things every year, but it never changes. It's a special day. It's a day a lot of kids dream about. A lot of kids start playing football when they're 6, 7, 8 years old with a dream of one day getting to become a Division I scholarship football player. And so to all the kids out there, all the families who got to enjoy today for those reasons, just congratulations. It's a really, really special day, and nothing will ever change that. I think from our perspective, obviously, we feel like it's a really good class. We always will. I don't know that we'll ever get up here and say that. But I think when you look again, the things that we're probably most proud of are how strong the commitments were, how early the commitments happened, how steady the class stayed. To me, all of those things are a really positive indicator of the kind of kids you're bringing into the program. And when we go out and we identify who we believe are the most talented players at each position across the country, and we're able to go identify them, recruit them, you don't see things shift gears, twist, turn. You see kids commit to the program, stay committed. You don't see a lot of that stuff. I just think that's always the outside indicators of what is really happening with the recruiting class. And so we're really excited with the group that's coming in today. It's great that the majority of them, all but one, will be here for the spring semester. And so we're really excited. Before we kind of get into the class dynamics and who's in the class, I think when you think about signing a class of this size and this magnitude that covers such a large area, there's so many people that come into this thing. And so I'm the one who gets to stand on the podium and talk about them all. The reality is there's a lot of people behind the scenes and coaches that play a huge role in getting them here so that we can talk about them. I think the thank you start with our coaching staff. I think our coaching staff does a phenomenal job, top to bottom, of team recruiting for Texas A&M, as important as it is to recruit your position and make sure that you have the connections and the relationships with your position. The thing that I really like the most about our staff is their willingness to jump in wherever there's a hand, whether that's a guy from Florida stepping in to help with an O-lineman from Florida, or a guy that's got a past connection with a family member of another recruit, or anything along those lines. I just think there's a willingness on our staff to do what's best for Texas A&M football, and that's something that I really appreciate and is not lost on me. Next, I want to go to Derek Miller, our general manager. I think Derek does as good a job as there is in the country of getting this thing put together at an elite level. The logistics of it, the scouting part of it, the acquisition part of it, somebody has to sit on top of that department every single day. Recruiting is a 24/7, 365 endeavor, maybe even more than that nowadays with everything that goes into it. And he does. He's such a phenomenal leader of that group. He does such a great job organizing our efforts. He does a great job identifying and acquiring talent. And so just really appreciate him and all of his hard work that goes into this thing. To our on-campus recruiting team led by Kiana Jasper, who teams with Lauren Moore and Maya Howard, they do a phenomenal job of, when kids get here, they get a first-class experience. And to anyone who gets the opportunity to talk to recruits who have visited or have gone through the recruiting process with us, when you hear words like really organized, really detailed, really personal, really caring, that's Kiana and her team, and that's who plays a huge part in that. We have a huge scouting department. DJ Marquardt, Alan Godet, Sean Cook, JoJo Hayden. When you talk about trying to identify prospects and identify the right prospects, that process is forever, and those kids never stop. When you're evaluating multiple classes across the country, those guys do a great job. Our recruiting acquisition team of Pop Cooney, Mason Smith, Matt Salvaggio, and Andrew Bather, guys that do a really good job connecting with recruits, connecting with families, helping make sure logistics run properly. Our director of high school relations, DJ Mann, who's done a really good job improving our relationships with coaches in the state. A special shout out to our student staff. We have 16 students that support our on-campus recruiting efforts. We have 10 students that recruit our scouting or support our scouting efforts. That's 28 students, 26, excuse me, math is wrong, 26 students that work in our office and basically work for the betterment of Texas A&M and Texas A&M football. And so their efforts do not go unnoticed. The creative team plays a huge role. Will Whitty, Jack Coyle, T. McCann, from graphics to commitment graphics to announcements to signing day announcements. You know, that is a full-time endeavor to be on social media and be active in that space. That team does a phenomenal job. To the people in academics who support us, Molly Ty and her crew, Mark, Mike, and Alyssa, who are always available to meet with families, meet with recruits, certainly goes above and beyond their job, but they play a huge role in helping us bring people onto this campus. And then to just some of the people in the community who really help. To the Juanita's ownership group, which includes Red's Ice House and Porter's Restaurant over in Calvary Court. They do a phenomenal job helping, or Century Square, excuse me, they do a phenomenal job of helping us with events. To Snooze Eatery, to Buppy's Catering, the Stella Cafe. We have a lot of kids coming into this town needing to find and reservations, places to eat, and those guys always do a phenomenal job. Thank you to Johnny Poche and John Harvey Slocum down at 1860 Italian, and to Jarvis at Casa de Brazil. They host the majority of our official visits. You don't know what it's like feeding people until you're feeding 20 kids on an official visit. That changes things a lot when you talk about restaurant service, and they're always eager to help and do a great job. Thank you to the George and Calvary Court. Thank you to Sheila Sandoval and her staff over at the Stella Hotel for providing us tremendous hospitality when our student athletes come to visit. Thank you to Ashley and Co., Ashley and Kelly at Poppin, Texas, and Anthony at Alpha Lit for their tremendous support in setting up our events. It feels like we set up a wedding every single weekend when you just talk about trying to give people a special entrance into Texas A&M football. And then last but not least, thank you to Kenny and Lena Lawson at CNC Creations and to Kayla Hudson at Ghost Mail for a lot of support getting into supplies and what our recruiting services and people need when people show up on campus. And so it's a huge endeavor. There's a lot of people that go into it. I apologize if I missed anybody, but just wanted to make sure that those people get recognized for all that they do to support our recruiting efforts. When you get specifically into the class, again, we always talk about class balance, and I think that's something that, again, stands out. And then we also talk about our ability to go out and attract the best fits for our program. And so we're represented by 10 states. Again, it starts in Texas. We had 9 kids from Texas. But then we stretch from California to Georgia to Florida to Ohio to Hawaii/Utah, depending on what day you talk to Helaman, to Arizona to Mississippi to South Carolina. We are becoming a national brand, and that's a testament to what Texas A&M stands for and what Texas A&M represents and who we can attract to come into this program. We had the position balance, again, that we were looking for. We signed 12 on offense. We signed 13 on defense. So that complements each other. I think if you look at last year's signing class with this year's signing class, I think you see a 2-year class that really complements each other positionally and just in the diverse skill sets you'd be looking for. And so those things really matter. We have 9 kids still competing for state championships. That's a really good number. That's over a third of our kids that have an opportunity to win a state championship. And so when you talk about bringing the winning mindset into your program, I think that always matters. And then we've got 1 kid competing in the OT national championship game. And so we have 10 kids still actively playing high school football as we sit here in December. And so that's a really cool thing. And so that's the overview. All right. I knew this was going to be a 2-water press conference. Now kind of just getting into each kid to give you a little bit of a snapshot on the class. So starts with our quarterback, Helaman Kasuga from Corner Canyon High School in Utah via Kona, Hawaii. He was the first commit in the class, came to our summer camp. The first summer we were here, we fell in love with him as a player. He's an extremely accurate passer. We fell in love with who he is as a young man, who the family is. They represent what you would want a Texas A&M quarterback to be. He's been extremely steady in his process. He's been a rock for us since he committed, helping bring other kids into the class. He was 25-2 as a starter. He completed nearly 70% of his passes for over 5,000 yards and 55 touchdowns in his career. At running back, we were able to bring in KJ Edwards from Carthage High School in Carthage, Texas. KJ's one of, if not the most coveted skilled players in the state of Texas. He's a difference maker with the ball in his hands, whether that's as a runner, a receiver, out of the backfield, a returner. He's the all-time leading rusher in Carthage High School history, running for over 5,500 yards, despite the fact that he sat out the majority of the second halves in his high school career. He averaged over 11 yards a carry as a high school running back. They've won 2 state championships. They play this weekend in round 4, going for a third. Just a phenomenal running back. At wide receiver, and again, these are alphabetical, Mike Brown from the Legacy School of Sports and Science in Houston, Texas. Mike's an Aggie legacy. His dad, Reggie, played football here. His mom, Carrie Patterson Brown, played on the women's basketball team. Mike will leave his own mark on this university. I think he has the ability to play inside or outside wide receiver. He's got some versatility in his game. He went over 1,200 yards as a senior, averaging over 22 yards a catch. He's also a state champion long jumper in track, and again, you'll see that dual sport thing come in a lot as we go through this class. Aaron Gregory from Douglas County High School in Augusta, Georgia, one of 2 taller receivers that we were able to bring into this class, which we felt like was important to balance the roster. Probably have the longest relationship with Aaron as of anyone in the class, starting all the way back to him as a 9th grader when I was the head coach at Duke and we started recruiting him. He's got tremendous length, a tremendous catch radius, gets in and out of cuts really well, had over 70 catches for 1,200 yards as a senior, and was just under 3,000 yards in his career. We were able to add later in the process Jayden Warren from Iowa Colony High School in Rochard, Texas. He played for former Aggie Ray Garza at Iowa Colony. They're still playing this week in the 4th round. Elite speed. Went 10.16 in the 100-meter last spring, which is extremely fast. He'll be an outside receiver for us. I think when you watch his evolution as a wide receiver, probably been one of the most impressive things that I've seen in high school tape, from where he was as a sophomore, as a really fast track kid, to a really, really good receiver as a junior that we coveted and went after, to even more of an elite receiver as a senior. And so really glad that we could add him into the class. Again, over 1,100 yards as a senior, 21 touchdowns, over 20 yards a catch, 4 return touchdowns. So another difference maker. Madden Williams from St. John Bosco in Irvine, California, another multi-sport athlete. He played football and basketball at St. John Bosco, and anyone familiar with that school, that's one of the premier athletic high schools in all of California. Another kid with position flexibility to go inside or outside. I think the thing that stands out about Madden is he's got elite ball skills. His ability to catch the football, track the football, make competitive catches in tight spaces is exceptional. In his career, he was over 2,000 yards at a high school that shares the football. It's not a high school that has one Division I prospect. It's got a high school that's got a lot of them. Had over 28 touchdowns. That's a career record for St. John Bosco. Moving to the tight end position, Evan Jacobson from Waukee High School in Waukee, Iowa. I hope I said that right. Big athletic tight end. I think he'll grow into an elite inline Y. I think he's got the ability to stretch the defense. He's a multi-sport player with basketball. I think he's got an agreement with Bucky to kind of maybe go across the street and see what he can get done after football season ends. He was an all-state basketball player, averaged 19 points per game on the basketball court. I think basketball lines run deep in his family. I think his dad was a college basketball player. As a senior, he had 50 catches for 700 yards playing tight end in a fairly run-heavy offense. So really excited about him. Caleb Tafua from Mesa High School in Arizona via Long Beach, California. An extremely athletic tight end. He's an elite receiver at the tight end position. I think he can flex out. I think he can play off the ball. Had a really difficult senior year, transferred high schools. The high school was ruled ineligible, had to sit, had to find a place to go, had to wind up in Mesa, Arizona. That's how much this kid loves football. Found his way onto a high school in Mesa, Arizona, where he only played 7 games and had 50 catches for over 700 yards, averaging over 100 yards a game as a tight end. KK Johnson from Fort Bend Marshall in Houston, Texas. KK played quarterback, but at 6'5", 230, we kind of project him as a versatile athlete in our offense. Probably starts at tight end, but just a kid who has an athletic skill set that is uniquely different. He threw for over 4,000 yards in high school, ran for over 1,000, accrued about 60 touchdowns. He's a big, long, athletic player. Also played basketball at Marshall, and obviously that's a school that's been really good to us, home of former Aggie Devonna Chain. On the O-line, Zayden Krempin from Prosper High School in Prosper, Texas. Played for former Aggie Tyler Moore up there at Prosper. He's got a tremendous blend of athleticism and power. Will play on the outside at tackle for us, but I think has flexibility like Trey across the entire line. He was a shot putter for the track team. He was an all-district O-line MVP, first-team All-State as a junior. Comes from a phenomenal family. Was really, really fun getting to know them in the recruiting process, and really excited for him and his future. Avery Morcho from Ridge Point High School in Houston, Texas. Avery's an elite athletic trait kid, tall, long, multi-sport letter winner in football and basketball, or football and track, 3-year starter for Ridge Point, all district first team, going to grow into an elite offensive tackle. Sam Roseborough from Clearwater High School and Clearwater football. He's the one pure inside kid that we brought in. Very powerful inside offensive lineman. Think he can be a center or a guard. Really has the ability to move people and physically get under people's pads. And then we were able to add Hunter McKinney from Lake Creek High School in Montgomery, Texas. Obviously, Hunter's a legacy, the son of Steve McKinney and the nephew of Seth McKinney, obviously, who both played here at a really, really high level. Hunter's another physical interior offensive lineman that projects to play guard or center. Switching over to defense, on the defensive line, Tristan Givens from Carver High School in Columbus, Georgia, a long, twitchy, athletic edge kid, tremendous pass rush value, won a state championship last year, will compete Friday night in the semifinals of the 2A state championship tournament this year. As a senior, he had 80 tackles, 25 TFLs, and 10 sacks. He's a 3-sport letter winner, so he played basketball as well as a jumper on the track team. Jermaine Kinsler from Bergen Catholic High School via Ocala, Florida. You got to be careful now when kids go to high school of recognizing where their hometown is. Big, long, athletic defensive lineman, will project as an inside kid. Also played basketball at Bergen, so again, another dual sport kid. Suffered a pretty serious ankle injury as a senior, and so didn't get to play much. We're excited to get him down here in the spring, get him healthy, and watch him become what he's capable of becoming. Samu Mawala from Lazinger High School in Carson, California. Another long, twitchy edge player. Has a lot of flexibility playing at the second level, first level, can blitz, can add coverage versatility. Another basketball player as a career, had 200 tackles, 32.5 TFLs, and 18.5 sacks. And then Bryce Perry Wright from Buford High School in Atlanta, Georgia. Bryce is a big end, physical, elite, power and twitch, thrower on the track team. Another kid that I've known for a long time. He actually camped for us at Duke when I was at Duke as the head coach, and he was a really young kid. He'll be competing this week in the semifinals of the 6A tournament in Georgia. Had over 200 tackles, 38 TFLs, and 23 sacks as a D lineman in his career. Shifting over to linebacker, Beck from Carthage High School, Carthage, Texas, a teammate of KJ Edwards, so same 2-time state champion, still competing. Very talented run and hit linebacker with really physical intentions at the position. Had over 300 tackles and 13 sacks in his career, and he was the defensive MVP of the state championship game last year. Another linebacker, Tank King from Port Arthur Memorial High School in Port Arthur, Texas. Tank's another physical run and hit linebacker. They're playing in round 4 this week, which is a little bittersweet because he knocked out my daughter's team last week, College Station High. He's a 4-year starter at Memorial. He set the high school career tackle record with 456 tackles, was a multi-sport athlete at Memorial, and so great to get him on board. We went up to Ohio and added Storm Miller from Strongsville High School in Strongsville, Ohio, a place I was familiar with very much so when I was at Bowling Green as the defensive coordinator. Twitchy, physical, dynamic playmaker, a lot of blitz flexibility in what he can do as a blitzer from the second level. His older brother was a 4-year starter on the offensive line at Clemson, so he's got tremendous genes and tremendous family makeup. As a senior, he had 110 tackles, 24 TFLs, 11 sacks, and 2 interceptions, was a Greater Cleveland Conference Defensive Player of the Year. Went to South Carolina and got Tamarian Watkins from Northwestern High School in Rock Hill, South Carolina. He was the really athletic linebacker that we needed, started his career at safety, kind of played a hybrid role for the high school most of his career between safety and linebacker, projects as an outside linebacker here for us. He was the 5A state title winner last year. They're still competing this weekend for a chance at back-to-back titles. Another kid with a very productive 152 tackles, 14 and a half TFLs, and 5 picks. As we move into the secondary, Brandon Arrington from Mount Miguel High School in San Diego, California. This is elite length and speed for the secondary. 6'2", 34-inch arms, ran 10.21 in the 100-meter, competed nationally in track and field. As a sophomore, he was the Gatorade California Boys Track and Field Player of the Year. As a junior, he broke U.S. Olympian Noah Lyles' San Diego High School 200-meter record, running 20.35. On the football field, he was a two-way player at wide receiver and corner. As a wide receiver, he had over 1,000 yards, averaged nearly 20 yards a catch with 13 touchdowns as a senior. As a DB, people just threw the ball in the other direction, and so there weren't a lot of stats to be had there. Chance Collins from Mansfield Timberview High School in Mansfield, Texas. Really talented athletic safety, was a two-way player. We saw him last year really transition to spring during spring ball and fell in love with what he was capable of becoming. He lettered in both football and track. Really, really good ball skills, really good physicality, and I think he had a really good senior year, and so we're really excited for what he can be in our secondary. Cam Hamiel from Desert Edge High School, originally from Detroit, Michigan. Desert Edge is in Arizona. He projects to come in and play nickel for us. Tremendous speed and physicality, really good blitzer, physical tackler, also a good ball skills kid, had 4 interceptions. Last year teamed with our current Aggie Jamar Beal Goins to win a 5A state championship, and so that's Cam. Victor Singleton from Toledo Central Catholic High School in Toledo, Ohio. Vic, we think, is a really talented corner, great movement skills, plays the game with a physical edge. They're playing for the 4A state championship this weekend. He's a track athlete, was a state champion long jumper as both a sophomore and junior. Again, so you see that explosion and the explosiveness. Was also back-to-back Defensive Player of the Year for Northwest Ohio Division III. Tylen Wilson from Pascagoula High School in Pascagoula, Mississippi. He's probably the most imposing hitter in the secondary, really, really physical on contact, explosive through his hips. A multi-sport kid competing in basketball and baseball. Had 65 tackles and 2 interceptions as a senior. I think he'll be a difference maker for us at safety. And then as you move into the specialists, we added Asher Murray from C.E. Bird High School in Shreveport, Louisiana. He came to our summer kicker camp and really was unbelievable that day. Explosive leg, the ball gets up in the air really quick, tremendous leg strength, tremendous height in his kicks and his launch angles. I think he's got a chance to be a real weapon for us. And then at punter, we added Waylon Peters from Montgomery High School in Montgomery, Texas. Averaged nearly 50 yards a punt as a senior, was an All-American punter on the Coles professional camp circuit. Just another kid who was really, really impressive last year in camp. And so that's the class, that's the thank yous. That's my time. So what question? One more thing I just want to finish up with. To all the people who spoke up on social media, thank you. I apologize for the outburst last week at the press conference. It certainly had nothing to do with anything other than that door being open for about 30 minutes, it felt like. But just thank you. I appreciate you guys. So from there, we'll take questions.
Coach will go to the right. Richard.
Coach, what areas of need, whether that be a position group or physical traits, do you think this class best addresses?
Yeah, I think there's a balance to it. I think that's the most important thing. I think so. If you look specifically defensive line, last year we were very D-tackle heavy. We brought in 3 defensive tackles that we feel really, really good about. We only brought in 1 edge in Marco. This year it goes the other way, right? So we're able to go out and add 3 edges and 1 inside guy. And so that if you look at where we're at over a 2-year stretch, you see a really strong balance. Same thing at wideout. Last year we bring in TK Norman and Kelshawn Johnson, and they're maybe on the smaller side. We only bring in Jerome Miles as a big bodied, and now this year you turn around, you add a couple more big bodied kids who have a little bit more outside receiver flexibility. And so I think you look at just diversity within the class and then diversity from a 2-year class cycle to make sure that you have a variety of skill sets that you're continuing to add into the program every year.
Coach will go to the left. 4th row, Rob.
Howdy, Coach.
Howdy.
So as you were giving your thank yous, it told me a lot about your character and the fact that in today's coaching where coaches can leave and it's no big deal and fans are just cheering for a jersey, that you know how important it is to have relationships. My 2 older sons were construction science majors here at Texas A&M. One of their professors told them that they needed to know the janitor's name and how important it is to have relationships. I know that you know that the biggest part of recruiting people is building those relationships. So can you just talk, not only about how important it is for everyone that is involved in making this happen, but also how that kind of goes into your building relationships with these recruits?
Yeah, I think nowadays you have an opportunity to shape your program however you want. If you want to build a transactional program that is only about money, you can. If you want to build a program that's very transient, you can. But I also think if you want to build a program that's built in substance and built in relationships, you can. And I think that's what we're trying to do here at Texas A&M. I believe this, and you can't convince me otherwise, that relationships still matter. Value certainly matters. That's not lost on me. That matters in coach retention. That matters in who you hire. That matters in who you recruit. That will never change. Nobody ever wants to go to a place where they feel undervalued. But I do believe that if you provide people the right value and the right environment and the right opportunity to grow, that you can build a culture that people want to be part of. And I think we've been able to do that here at Texas A&M, and I think that's something that has been very critical to our success and something that I try my hardest to protect at all times, and certainly won't ever be perfect with it because there's a balancing act when you go through this to do it the right way. But it's something that means a lot to me that people are picking Texas A&M for a little bit more substance than just the dollar sign, that there are real relationships so that kids are wanting to be part of the program and stay part of the program, and that we can continue to build a culture that will withstand the test of time.
Coach will go all the way in the back, Tyler.
Yeah, Coach, you kind of went all over, 9 states, you said, or 10 states to recruit, but still just curious about the area of Houston, kind of how important is it still to get those Houston kids and kind of those guys in this class?
Yeah, I think it's critical. I think when you start recruiting, you always start inside out, and so for us, the first inside out piece is locally, just here in the Brazos Valley, and then the next very obvious place you go is Houston from a proximity standpoint and a location standpoint, and it's probably the one city where you would say we have the closest proximal relationship to a lot of really talented players, and so Houston has always been really important to Texas A&M. It will continue to be really important to Texas A&M, and I think that's the place we really start our efforts every year, and then you go to Dallas, San Antonio, and you start expanding through the rest of Texas.
Coach will stay in. Sorry.
I think he's got a follow-up.
Yeah, I wanted to ask as well. I know the timing's kind of weird, but with the reports out today on Collin Klein, just didn't know if that was something that you guys were anticipating, or kind of your reaction to kind of what that situation's like right now.
Yeah, I think it's probably not solidified in any way, shape, or form yet. Certainly the reports tend to proceed the official notifications, but I think when you hire really good people, opportunities like that will come. You appreciate that people want to stay part of your program until the next big opportunity for them comes. If we're doing this right, it will be a piece of it, no different than losing players to the NFL. You'll lose coaches, you'll lose position coaches to become coordinators, you'll lose coordinators to become head coaches. I think what you're trying to avoid at all cost is losing really valued assistants to go be assistants at other programs, right? And that's not this case. And so if it does turn out to work out like the reports suggest, obviously it's a tremendous opportunity for someone on our staff to take the next step in their career. And I try to do everything I can to support and help those endeavors.
We'll go next to Donna.
Coach, you talked about Jayden Warren a little bit, and earlier today, Coach Wiggins said that you feel like you're getting a steal out of him. So just, I know you talked about him a little bit, but what stood out to you, especially that progression with his development?
Yeah, it's it's funny how those things get treated. It's Carter's fault for all of it because he's a steal only because of this arbitrary star ranking that he has. We think he's phenomenal. So if that means he's a steal, then he's a steal. But for us, we think he's an absolute elite football player. I think he's got electric speed. When you talk about being over 6'1" and being under 10'2", you can count those on one hand, how many of those that are out there playing college football. He's got really good hands. He plays the game really hard, really physical. And he's also from a really, really good family. And so when you put all of that together, there's certainly a lot of indicators that he's going to have a really successful career for us. And so, to whatever degree makes him a steal, we think he's phenomenal.
And then to that Coach Troop
I was just kidding, Carter.
To that Coach Troop kind of talking about not just the talent level, but these kids being able to come in and understand the work ethic and the family aspect of this program. Just since you've been here a couple years now, how do you feel like you've been able to kind of hammer that home with the recruiting classes?
Yeah, I think your program and the culture of your program attracts those kids into your program. And so, I'm not naive, in what makes kids make decisions, right? There's a value proposition for sure, and then there's a lot of time that gets spent on this campus, not around coaches, where players will tell them the truth. They'll get a vibe for what the players are thinking. They'll get a vibe for what the program's really like, and kids are really finding out the answers to, is that the right program for me? And so in all of those conversations that happen when the coaches aren't around, who your locker room is, who your culture is going to be the kind of kids that you attract into it. And so that's why it was so important, we felt like, to build the right foundation in the program, because then what happens is you bring in all the best kids in the country who want to be like that. And so we had the majority of the top kids in the class show up on this campus at some point. Sometimes it filters out because they just have a little stronger interest in other programs. But a lot of times it filters out because the ones who really want what we are gravitate to us, and the ones that don't. And sometimes that's okay.
Coach, we'll go to the front right. Travis.
Hey, Mike. When it comes to Qui and KJ and their recruitment, in their particular instance, does it help at all to have two guys at the same school and that know each other like that? And what can you talk about that recruiting process with two guys who know each other like that?
Yeah, it obviously makes it easier from a visit standpoint because you can kill two birds with one stone. But they're separate. We made sure that that's really important. We didn't take one because of the other. We didn't take two from one school because it made it easier. We felt like Qui was an elite linebacker. We felt KJ was an elite back, and they just happened to both be playing for a really talented program in East Texas, which is an area that's really important to us. Obviously, when one commits, it always helps lean on the other one because, they're talking to each other a lot more. They can have a lot of conversations with each other. It helps from a familiarity standpoint to have two kids feel comfortable coming to school together. But I also think it's important to recognize that they're recruited as separate individuals and that they certainly weren't considered a package deal in any way, shape, or form.
And then just one quick point of clarification with Collin. If that opportunity does present itself, would he still coach through the playoffs here?
Yeah, there's a lot that still has to be determined, but that would be the expectation. Some of the early conversations that we've had about opportunities like this have certainly led to me believing that will be the case.
Coach to the left, second row, Alex.
2 full cycles into being head coach here, just how do you feel like from a roster building standpoint you guys are where you'd like between bringing in high school players and then adding transfer portal additions as you guys will start turning to that here this next month?
Yeah, I still think that there's, holes get left in rosters in transition. I don't think that can ever get changed. Anytime there's a coaching transition, there's going to be holes with, that class that comes in, which wasn't a very big class. That was a quality class, but not a high quantity class. Some of the kids that decide to depart. And so I think we've done a really good job in these 2 classes of putting together a really, really strong balance. I think there's something like 54, 56 kids that have been signed in this 2-year cycle. That's going to add a really strong youth development part of this program. We've got to make sure, when the transfer portal opens up in January, that we hit the balance of some of our immediate needs that are going to need to get addressed, which are where some of those holes exist in the program still. And then hopefully coming out of this cycle, I think we've probably finally gotten to, as we head into this time next year, it'll probably be the first, okay, like we've now kind of got this thing solidified to where it really wants to be.
And just one more with Collin. Last time we talked with him, he said that he'd absolutely one day love to be a head coach. What have you seen from him that he would be ready to be a head coach if now is the time for him?
Yeah, I think, first of all, he's just a phenomenal person. I think it starts there, because of that, then I think he's a phenomenal leader. He's a really smart football coach. He's a really competitive guy. Certainly have learned a lot from him. I think he would tell you he's learned a lot from being here in this program. And when you're around really good people, at some point those opportunities are going to present themselves, and you're really happy for them when they do.
Coach will go to the right, second row, Brian.
Yeah, Mike, I'm really interested in about the psychology of parents now.
Okay. I'm going to open a new water bottle.
Yeah,
for this
exactly. When you got started in this thing, it was about here's the school, here's what the school can offer, here's what a 4-year degree can offer now. But now you have parents who are looking for transactions and what's good for the next 12 months. And I guess my question is that how do you find the balance of that, and how are you finding that parents are handling this new era just as much as you guys are trying to grapple with it?
Yeah, this is what I would say. I would say there's a lot of media people, there's a lot of my colleagues who act as though this is a whole new phenomenon that's happening. The idea that somebody would have a job and expect value to be provided to them for that job, that some people in your organization will jump for the dollar. Some people will be very comfortable as long as they feel valued. Some people will stay until the right promotion comes. Like, that has been the history of American society since I was born. It's just now existing in college football. And so I think we're too quick to jump to all. All parents are looking for transactions. All parents are looking for the dollar. No, certainly some are, and no different than some in my business, some in your business. There's people like that, but there's also people who aren't like that. And I think we broad stroke this thing way too much to say, oh, because this player made a transaction and did something for a transaction, or this coach did something transactional, everyone's transactional. And I just don't think that's fair. I think there are still a lot of people, again, value matters. Like, there's nowhere in the world where value matters. I don't think I chase dollars, but I certainly would not come here below value. That's just a reality to the world. And so I'm not sitting here telling you NIL doesn't play a role, value doesn't play a role, but there are people that we recruit, a lot of them, that don't come to us with, hey, you offered me this person offered us, $1,000 more, we need to change the deal. Like, we deal with a lot of people who don't do that, and I appreciate those people.
That's a good follow-up. So is it refreshing then when you come across a family or a recruit who's like, hey, show me everything there is to see about it, Texas A&M, and I want to learn everything there is about it.
Yeah, I think
Gravitate more to those people.
I think there's more of those people than you're giving it credit for. And absolutely, I think those people gravitate to us and we gravitate to those people. I think the people in this program would tell you, and this is, and again, like, I'm going to get on a soapbox here for a second, but like, if I became a free agent head coach this year, I could make more money. If I just made myself a free agent coach and got into an open bidding war with anybody who would hire me, I could make more money than I'm making, to whatever amount it is. Our players could all do the same. That doesn't make it right. That doesn't make it the best thing for me and my family. That doesn't make it the best thing for them in their development. That doesn't make it the best thing for them in their career. And I think we spend a lot of time trying to make sure everybody understands that, because that's an important lesson to learn in life. And as important as, teaching them how to be away from home for the first time, so too is teaching them the value of the dollar versus the value of real relationships, real connections, real growth, real development, because those things matter. And again, I think the only thing that has happened is this has shifted now into 18 to 21-year-olds in college, but I don't think it's a new thing. I think it's been around for a really long time, and I think it's just in part our job to try to make sure they understand how all of that works.
Coach, we'll go to the left, third row.
Howdy, Coach.
Howdy.
With 17 signees coming from out of state, how are you working to build team chemistry, especially integrating out of state players with in-state signees and players that are already here in Aggieland?
Yeah, I think every roster takes on a different demeanor. I think how you go about building culture within each team is important. That'll be something that'll start in January when they all get here. The nice thing about recruiting nowadays is a lot of these kids know each other. I think one of the reasons why there's more schools recruiting nationally maybe than ever before is because the world is connected a lot more now than it ever has been, and so a kid from Texas can be really good friends with a kid from California via social media, via platforms. There's just a lot of ways for people to connect nowadays. And so maybe in the past when there wasn't all of that and 22 kids from Texas got together with 3 kids from out of state, there was this discomfort. I think a lot of that has kind of gone away in the modern world that we live in.
Kind of a follow-up to that, sir. You kind of mentioned that a lot of players are dual, even tri-sport athletes. How will you work with the players that kind of want to play multiple sports while here at Aggie Land if football season tends to overlap with the sports that they want to play?
Yeah, I think we're lucky. I think most of them don't understand that that's harder to do in the SEC. I think what we like is kids that have multiple skill sets. And I think when you see kids that play multiple sports in high school, you're recruiting kids that have multiple skill sets. I think that's really important. I don't think many of them envision themselves being multi-sport athletes here at Texas A&M, which obviously I think is really challenging. There's only a handful of select kids who could ever pull that off.
We'll go to the right, Carter.
Mike, what kind of feedback have you guys gotten from a recruiting standpoint with the success y'all have had this season, and what kind of impact do you think that could have on future classes for you guys?
Yeah, I think that's more the impact. I think recruiting is such a long cycle that, by the time the season kicks off this year, the 26 cycle is so far into it. Obviously it makes it easier to hold on to your class. Maybe you can add a piece or two. But I think the reality of it is if you're recruiting the right kind of kids, they've gone through a lot of their decision-making process, and I'm not sure that, a couple extra wins impacts that. Now, when the 27 class is looking at Texas A&M and starting to formulate their top 10s right now, who are the schools that we're going to really take a good hard look at, as the 28 class is just starting the process of looking into where do I want to check out, I think that's where, having the success that we've had, being a nationally visible program this year, being in the top 5 for the majority of the year, being in the playoffs, I think those things will pay off when you start looking at that. Because I think those kids, as they start their process, are going, let's go see what's going on at Texas A&M. That seems to be a place that's really on the up and up.
Wondering what your reaction was to being ranked 7th in the playoff rankings last night.
Yeah, I think we've alluded to this, right? as a football coach, put a ball down, let's go play. It doesn't matter. We'll play anyone, anywhere. It is what it is. We're going to be in the playoffs, and we're going to go compete for a national championship. I think from a CEO standpoint, I think we are all screaming for some clarity. And I've said this all the way through the season, of what exactly is the criteria that we're utilizing to break ties. And I don't know that anybody has a real firm understanding of what that actually is. And so, for us to have a higher strength of schedule and a higher strength of record than a lot of the teams that share the same record as us, I don't understand. Now, at the end of the day, we'll put a ball down and we'll go play, and it'll be what it'll be. But it would be nice if there was a little bit of clarity in the process as to what exactly were happening. And then the other thing I'm going to just address with this, because this needs to be said too, that it's amazing how many people want to say we have played a poor schedule when we have the 15th ranked strength of schedule in the country and the 3rd ranked strength of record in the country. And so I understand that you can look at a picture on social media and draw a line and just make arbitrary conclusions. But I also think we have these formulas that create analytical evaluations of what our schedule actually was and how many teams could have actually managed our schedule at 11-1. And those numbers are very much in our favor. And so I know we can get on a mic and scream real loud that Texas A&M hasn't played a strong schedule. But if you dive into our schedule in any capacity, every analytic says we have. And so rather than yelling real loud about what we've done, I think let's look at the analytics and the numbers and try to use that to guide some more intelligent decision making.
What do you think would be the fair ranking for you guys?
I don't know. That's their decision.
Coach, we'll go to the left. Matthew?
When it comes to the offensive line recruiting in this class, how do you think this group of recruits complements last year's?
Yeah, I think last year we brought in a very large group. I thought we brought in quite a few interior bodies. We were a little bit kind of heavy on the inside, and so we wanted to make sure we got some pure tackles. And so bringing in Jayden and Avery was really important from that perspective. And then you don't ever want to go a cycle without bringing in a guy who can add value in the inside. And so being able to bring in Hunter and Sam, I think, really added the value we needed on the inside as well.
Then you mentioned it with the player relationships. How pivotal has it been to create a pipeline with the West Coast that A&M hadn't really had before?
Yeah, I think it's important. I think that, when you think about the SEC kind of being the premier conference in the country, and when kids come out here and they see what a game day atmosphere looks like in Texas, at Texas A&M, in Kyle Field versus some other places, I think it's very attractive. And it's the easiest SEC location to get to is the state of Texas. And so we've always kind of felt like there was a path to do that. Obviously, we have some coaches on our staff. Jordan Peterson has recruited California a lot. Holman Wiggins is from California. That helps for sure. Coach Tony Gerard-Eddy has been out there a bit. So those things help a lot. But I do think there's a natural draw for the state of California to come here to Texas.
We'll stay to the left, front row.
Mike, 2 QBs last year, 1 QB this year. Can you just talk about the process of, with so few young guys coming in the class, how important it is to find the right guy and just the process of roster management and class management when you go to pick those guys?
You're talking about from a QB standpoint?
Yeah, QB.
I think in an ideal world, you're trying to bring in one a year. I think that's the balance you're looking for, and it's always a challenge because it's the hardest position to hold on to your depth, right? Everybody at some point in their career wants to find a playing opportunity, and so it's a challenge. And so we're trying to be very deliberate about making sure we get one in every year that we feel really, really good about. Last year was a unique set of circumstances, and so we brought in 2 with Eli as the second one and Brady. But I think as long as we're in a position where we can do at least one a year, we feel like we'll be able to keep the cupboard where it needs to be.
Coach, we'll go to the right. Brian?
My quick follow-up. So based on what you're saying about the CFP, is there any doubt in your mind that you expect to host a game?
I guess they're 2 separate questions. Do I think we deserve to host a game? Oh, my God, yeah.
Right.
Do I know what they're going to do? No, I have no idea what they're going to do. I couldn't even begin to try to predict what they'll do.
Is that's your world famous optimism I've heard about?
I don't know. Kat, is that my world famous optimism that he's heard about?
But real quick though, I mean, what is your take on the SEC as a whole getting as many teams in as possible? And what do you think of what Sark is doing in Austin, trying to push Texas in, which would help the league as overall?
I don't really care. No disrespect to Sark. I do like and respect him, but I don't really care what anyone else is doing. I think that when you look at the out-of-conference record for this conference, it speaks volumes about what it means to play in the SEC. I think the hardest challenge that the committee has is identifying the difference between mid-level and low-level teams from conference to conference. I think that's really challenging, and I think that's what, if you hooked anyone up to a lie detector test, they would tell you that regardless of record, when you play teams in this conference, you are challenged week in and week out, and that is unique to this conference. Home venues, being on the road, atmospheres, crowd size, it's just unique to this league. And I know a lot of people will say a lot of things because of the conference they now represent, but I don't think that's actually what they ever thought if they were in this league.
All right, anything else for Coach?
Good. Thank you, guys.
Thank you.